Hello and welcome to the Welsh Premiership podcast and episode 22 today. Today we're joined by a man that's been around in the Premiership for a fair while now. He's played for clubs like Ebbw Vale, Newport, Cross Keys, and when the season hopefully restarts again, he'll be with his fourth club, Swansea RFC. So how are you doing and how are you getting on, Wes?
Yeah, okay. Lockdown, it obviously has affected everybody really, but for me personally, nothing's changed. With my job, when in lockdown, we do a lot of working from home, but with the young people I work with, it didn't really stop me really, because I do need to go out and see them and make sure they're okay, making sure they're staying out of trouble.
Yeah, so can you tell us a bit about your background and how you got into rugby?
It's a story that a lot of people like hearing lately at the moment. I don't know why, but so I'm from Dufferin in Newport. Very working class background, and a lot of unemployment at the time. And a single parent household. And when I tell you the story, you'll notice how that interlinks with my role now with St Giles, Cymru. But single parent upbringing, and my own family member had addiction issues, so that affected us growing up when we were kids, me and my younger brothers. And I was getting into a lot of trouble, in terms of the police for the law. And I got picked up for rugby when I got chased by some local people in the area. And I was gone. I was leaping fences and things like that. And two local police officers who were on the beat saw it happen, and they were like, they come knock on my door, and they basically got involved in sport that way. They were like, why don't you just use that, that ability you got, we can use that for something positive, and it went from there really.
Do you feel as if rugby sort of helped to set you on the right path in life? And can you tell us a little about the project you've got being made about you?
Yeah, so when I first got involved with rugby, I was on the fence. I was involved with it's called youth justice system now, but when I was doing it, it was the youth offending team. That was a name for him, and I was still under that. And I was on the fence. I don't know which way that went, which way I was going that way. And, a lot of things have happened, with me growing up, losing friends, through things, and, get arrested for things that that I did, in terms of, criminal exploitation, that side of the ladder. So when I went to rugby, it definitely changed it for me, especially when I went to Ebbw Vale. All that completely changed. That environment got bigger, and this environment I was used to got smaller. Then it just got smaller and smaller, and then that was it. Then, and then after that, a lot of people have been approaching me, and there's a project going now where they want to speak to me about my upbringing and my story, in terms of technically on paper I shouldn't be playing top flight rugby, if you want to call it that, or semi-pro on paper, so only a few years before Ebbw Vale I was in handcuffs every other day, and it's gone from that to being like playing for one of the best clubs in Wales in my eyes.
And obviously you had your first sort of taste of rugby with St Joseph's RFC in Dufferin. How much do you sort of owe to the club, not just for your rugby career, but how your life is today?
Yeah, there was a coach there, Mike Dawkins. He was the head coach of the youth side at the time, and when I went there, obviously they were based in Dufferin, so obviously my name was quite well recognised in that area. So when I turned up, obviously my reputation wasn't the best, but the nicest thing was he didn't really care about that. He just saw a young lad who had potential to go quite far in the sport of rugby union. And I owe him a lot really, because he was there for me all the time. He'd ring me, in the week, make sure I'm home, make sure I'm not going missing, things like that. And he's come and sometimes pick me up himself Saturday morning for training, and then pick me up for the games on Sunday. He's very influential, Mike. He was very, very on the ball with me, and even though he was my coach, he cared about me outside of rugby as well. And I just think that's the value of rugby in general.
And in the Premiership, you've played for Ebbw Vale, Newport and Cross Keys. But what are some of your favourite memories from playing in the league?
Oh, there's one a bit slightly different from the Premiership. There was one where I think we was with Ebbw Vale and we were Championship side at the time, and we played Cardiff RFC, up Cardiff on the Old Arms Park before they changed the pitch, and we went in as the underdogs, and what a day that was, down to 13 men as well, and we still got the win. And I think out of all of that, I think that was one of the best games and memorable for me was that the manner that we won it. We had talent in the team, but we've been together since 2010, and we've been together for a long time, and that just showed on that day, even down to 13 men, that we were just willing to dig in for each other.
Yeah, and as someone who's played in the league for a long time, what do you think of the standard of rugby? Like, what's your opinion on how good the standard is?
Yeah, this is a question that gets flown around a lot, doesn't it, about the Premiership. For me, I think it's a pretty good standard. I do hear the question all the time is, what's the purpose of the Welsh Prem? Is it fit for purpose? And I think, for me, I think the question is, do we know what the purpose it is for ourselves as a whole? You hear about academy boys coming in and getting regular game time, and now which region it is, and things like that. Also, you've got to think about players that are not known as well. That's not in the academy system, and the local Premiership coach has gone to the local club one day, and for example, like Bryn Mawr, I know there's one or two boys who got selected, got picked up by Newport to play in the Premiership that haven't come through the academy system, and they've proved to be very decent players in the Premiership. So I think it works both ways, really.
Yeah, you mentioned briefly about the academy youngsters dropping down then to play in the Premiership. Do you think the Premiership is sort of the perfect tool to develop those young players that might not be getting game time with the regions?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can't speak personally. I've never played at regional level. I didn't play, as you know, my story. I didn't come through the academy level either. But when I have played with academy players, you can see the talent that they have. But lack of game time has been their only issue for them. I think the Premiership is a very good platform for them. Even though it's played on TV, especially in terms of Wales, but it does open the doors for a little bit more, and it also shows that their talent as well live on TV. I think that's quite special for some of these young players coming through, and it's also regular game time. We all know ourselves, no matter what level you play at, you only get better by playing, and I think the Premiership serves that purpose. There's a mixture of older generation and younger, and the mixture is very beneficial because I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but even though he's a fantastic player, the likes of like Dav Lockyer, for example, who's been at Pontypridd for a long time, and a young centre or winger can actually learn a lot from someone like Dav, which you can take that back into the regional rugby, when they get there. And also, for example, like in Ebbw Vale, they can learn off, a young prop can learn off someone like Ross Jones and Rob Sevenoaks. In my eyes, some of the two best props you can find in the Premiership. A young academy prop, will learn under them. It's a no-brainer, really.
Yeah, and who's some of the best players you played with and against in the league?
Played with. There's a few. I can name a few. Dorian Jones was one. He was a very good player for us at Vale. Played 9, 10 and 15, and he's just a talented player. And when I seen him play for the Dragons, and now obviously he's over in France playing, and it's no surprise to me that he's playing at that level. Because when I played with him, he was fantastic. And Josh Lewis was another one as well. He was another fantastic player that come in. He just seemed like he had all the time in the world on the ball, and his passing was so zingy. It was unreal, and his kicking for goal as well was fantastic. And it's good to see him as well playing for the Dragons. And also, what the big one for me that I played with is most probably Damien Hood. When he was my captain at Ebbw Vale, he was just a man that you would just follow anywhere. Really, he's very inspiring man. When we played against Newport, he had some injuries and he still played like there was nothing there. And he put a massive performance in. So yeah, for me, they're the best three. And The players I played against, well, there's a few. I say Steph Andrews is a good one for Aberafon. He's a very talented young player, and obviously watching for the Wales Sevens, you can see that. He's very talented. I'd say Dav Lockyer as well is another one. Big, powerful centre. When he's come in, you just know that he's coming. And when you collide with him, your shoulders feel a bit sore on the Sunday morning. I'm not going to lie. When you can tackle him, that is. And for me as well is Morgan Allen. Number 8 at Cardiff. He was a very, very big, powerful, strong guy. When he carried 2-3 men to put him to the floor, and when he did play, you can see that when he did play at the highest level, you can see that when he played in the Premiership. But there's just 3 I could name. There's loads more you could pinpoint in the Premiership. There's a lot of fantastic players.
And when the Premiership finally restarts, you'll be playing your rugby for Swansea. How did that move come about, and how much are you looking forward to it?
It came about. I'm very friendly with one of the people involved with Swansea now, Chris James, and he spoke to me a few times beforehand, about coming to Swansea. And at the time, I was in a difficult time, looking after my grandfather, who had terminal cancer in the end. So I kind of took a step back from the rugby a little bit at that point. And then approached me again, just saying, would you like to, have a crack? And I thought, why not? And being a Gwent boy, I think it's, I heard Hugh on the last, on the podcast with you that he said his time in Gwent, how he learned the physicality. I think it's the reverse for me, is that I learned the physicality, and I learned now what it's like to play West Walian rugby, I suppose. They like to play a bit, don't they? So it'd be quite good for me. It means I got to go on a treadmill 4 times a week, to drop that bit of weight and get fit. But no, I'm very looking forward to it, and looking forward to, hopefully, look to be working under someone like Hugh Gustafsson. That'd be very good.
It'll be nice playing at St Helens in front of the bay. Then it would nicer playing there than it would be up at Eugene Cross or Pandy Park or something in the rain, won't it?
Do you know about that? Eugene Cross Park is a legendary place, and Pandy Park has also got its history as well. And I know St Helens has also got its history, and I'm a big person on that. The history of any club that you play for, and I know the ground is the centre of that. And I know some great players have graced that pitch, so it'll be a pleasure, hopefully finally run on that ground.
Have you had a chance to get in contact with any of the Swansea boys yet, or meet up with them?
No, not yet, unfortunately. Myself and Hugh been speaking a lot through, WhatsApp, and JP. Unfortunately, he's having his own issues, and and we've been speaking in touch with that. Just checking in, making sure everything's all right. And even though I've never met him, it's just the nature I am. Really, I care about people, and I know briefly what he's going through. And it's not a nice place to be in. So, but they seem like nice people. I'm sure that the mentality and the banter might be a bit different to what I'm used to here in Gwent. But no, it's I'm looking forward to meeting the boys.
And how have you been affected personally by the COVID outbreak?
Believe it or not all that bad. With my work, I work with young people. That's out. They behave out of the norm, shall we say? When we're classed as key workers, which we are, it never really changed for me. The only thing I did change is that where before lockdown, I'd be going to meetings at social services buildings, etc., and meeting people and a meeting at the office. It's all done like this now on Zoom and on Teams. But in terms of actually working with children, nothing's changed. I'm still going out there and seeing them, making sure that they have a quiet weekend, shall we say.
And what are you missing most about playing rugby at the moment?
I miss the boys more than anything else. The banter that goes around the change room, and the jokes that go flying around, and I miss that a lot, especially in my time at Ebbw Vale. When you walk in the change rooms, and the first thing you see on your left would be, Ross Jones, Matthew Williams, and Sevenoaks. The 3 big jokers of the team. And as soon as you walk through the door, someone's going to come at you, some comment about something, and some joke or some banter. And you do miss things like that. And I know a lot of people say, rugby is this and that, but when you train 2-3 days a week and playing on a Saturday, they become your pals, on and off the field. And it's those kind of things you miss really more than anything, is just being together with your mates.
And I know you've been involved with the School of Hard Knocks before. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And like, given your background, how important is sport in sort of changing people's lives around?
It's very important. Like I said, a lot of people's interested for some reason in my story. I just see it as I just went straight, shall we say, but a lot of people like this story for some reason. And for me, rugby, as I said, when I went to Ebbw Vale, that environment got smaller and that environment got bigger. And the positive side of that environment, when I was at Ebbw Vale, the supporters, they say that I'm the bank's favourite, and when there are hundreds of people there, shouting for you, and it was a mad roller coaster. I'm not gonna lie to you. Even for myself, it took me a while to adjust. I was so used to having negative feedback a lot, and then when I went to Ebbw Vale, there was nothing but positive, and people got your back regardless of what my background was. They didn't care. They just saw Wes, and I was a decent player for the club. And when I finally spoke to people at the School of Hard Knocks, because I know that they've gone through a similar situation, and once you get tagged with something, it stays with you, and I know what it's like to try and find employment, and I know what it's like to be seen in a different light to other people, But in rugby, it's got the 2 try lines, it's got the 2 posts, and it doesn't matter. You're all one team really, and that's why for me I find rugby so beneficial. But in sport in general, it's just the fairness of sport, I think, compared to other things, that's very beneficial.
And how important is rugby in sport in promoting societal issues like racism and inequality?
Yeah, rugby is very important. I mean, I know in rugby union, but you look at both codes, I think that for me personally, I think they kind of lead the way a little bit in terms of inclusion. I'm not gonna lie, I have had some racial abuse myself when I was playing, but that don't speak for everyone. I've had, I'm not going to name the clubs, but when I've had the racial abuse, that don't represent them all, because I got friends from each of those clubs and it doesn't represent them, and they are good friends of mine. And, I think when you see a lot with Ashton Hewitt, what he's talking about, and it's all warranted what he's talking about, but when you see more players like Ashton, you see more players like Leon Brown, for me, it was Colin Chavis, for me personally, watching Colin. But not just Colin, I was, Scott Gibbs inspired me as well, and Percy Montgomery, inspired me. I know I shouldn't be saying it, but because we couldn't afford a ticket, I used to sneak in, to Robert Braid, to watch, Teichman and Percy, and you just seen the camaraderie of them all. And I think rugby promotes it very well, and I know Greg Woods does say there's a jersey for all. I do generally believe that. In terms of promoting it, I just think a lot of more players like Ashton and Leon, and the more players from the Bain community that you see coming through, I just think it'll attract a lot more people, from the Bain community that come forward and take part in the sport.
Yeah, and you've touched upon it but how important is it for Black and ethnic minority youngsters to have role models like Ashton Hewitt and Leon Brown to look up to?
Oh, it's very important. I'm sure Ashton and Leon got their own role models that they looked up to, and when you look at, for example, in Jamaica, where my grandparents are from, a lot of youngsters look up the Usain Bolts and a Safa Powell, but it's different there because they're surrounded by their own race of people. So, but here, Ashton, Leon, you've got Max Williams as well, who's also, playing, and which is Lloyd Lewis. Speaking of players like them, and I hope they don't mind me mentioning names, but speaking of players like them would be very beneficial for the Black and ethnic minorities to come forward then and inspire them to come take part in sport.
And I know you mentioned in your WRU article that the positives you've had from rugby like far outweigh the negatives, and you said that like 99% of your time in rugby has been enjoyable and you felt welcomed. Is there more that can be done like to stop abuse from happening? And do you think those incidents that happen are sort of singular, like isolated, like moments of stupidity, really, and not something that's like ingrained?
Yeah, I mean, it depends how it's dealt with. I think I know a lot of people say the WRU. I think it's a collective to tackle that kind of issue. I mean, being black, and when I got called racist names and people spat at me, etc., and things like that. I'm also seen on the news as well, or on the rugby news, that certain coaches or certain players have said something to a player and the team walked off, but that club reacted, in my opinion, in the right way. They excluded that player from the club, and they publicly announced that they don't accept it. For me, that's part of the issue that's being solved. If they are getting wind of it, then it's being dealt with internally. Unfortunately, the WRU can't keep eyes on everybody. So that it's got to be a collective when it comes to that. And to deal with it, as I said, it's got to be a single issue. If a club has experienced that, or as a club that does know that member of their team or a supporter or whatever it might be that's involved in that, then it's their responsibility to deal with that.
You've represented Jamaica and Sevens. How much did it mean to you to be able to represent them, and how proud are you of your Jamaican heritage?
Oh, I'm very proud of my Jamaican heritage, and I get asked this a lot. I am a Welshman. I'm not gonna deny that I am Welsh. But when I got asked to play for Jamaica, it was great. And unfortunately, things didn't go my way. As I said, I'm sure you're gonna ask the question a bit later on, but things that I've done in the past have caught up with me, and things I can't do. Of two of them. Of all countries in the world, it was decided to be staged in Australia and America, and the things that I did, they're not, it was, I did speak to my solicitor about it, and we had a conversation as a whole, and it was best if I just stepped back, really, because there's no point in trying to fight a losing battle on that one.
Yeah, well, that basically leads on to my next question, which was, how frustrating was it for you not being allowed to compete in the Commonwealth Games?
Very, very frustrating. Very frustrating. I sat there, and there was a combination of things. Obviously with Jamaica, we're not full time. We're not, full time professionals. We're not fully funded, and part of the issue as well was funding it myself. And I got a mortgage. I got children to look after. So it was quite a lot of money, to spend out for Australia for the Commonwealth Games. And also when I did look into it, it was going to be a challenge, put it that way, to get myself into Australia. So it's very frustrating, but it's all lessons learned, and that's why I'm doing the work I'm doing now, because hopefully I can pass on to other young people not to make that mistake.
And obviously you really enjoy playing sevens. How much different is it physically to playing 15s?
Oh, it's a lot more running. I know it don't look like that the way I look now, but it is a lot more running, a lot more faster. The skill set is, I would say, the same as 15s, but I'd say a skill set would improve when you play sevens, when you play against other players who are doing it full time. And you can see that as well by the way they play, how they just see gaps and how quick a turn of speed they turn over. It's completely unreal. And, playing against some of the sevens boys over here in the UK, one highlight would be playing against the England the IP7 squad. And yeah, they were just ridiculously good, and when you looked at some of those players, they could easily play for England sevens on the circuit now, and they were that good. And as I said, but yet again, the sevens circuit they have, it's very beneficial. That's the sevens team, they play sevens all in the UK. So when they do get that call up to England sevens, they're not going to look no different because they're doing it day in, day out every week.
And you've been working with St Giles Cymru. Can you tell us a little bit about that and why it's important to you?
Yeah, it's an interesting role, and it is a niche. I'm not going to lie, it's not something that everybody is aware of, and but that's just down to the issue of the beast, unfortunately. But I work for St Giles Cymru, but we've got a team in London, Birmingham, Leeds, Liverpool, Wrexham, Swansea, Cardiff. We cover a lot of the UK, and we work with young people who are involved in child criminal exploitation, and also I work with young people who are at risk or have been convicted of serious youth violence. the St Giles format is they like to use people with lived experience to work with these youngsters, and that's why it's very important to me. I generally understand what these young people are going through, physically, mentally. I know exactly what they're going through, and I know exactly why they're doing what they're doing as well, because, as I said, I've been in their shoes and it's lived experience.
And I know you've been doing some rugby coaching with Newport as well. How much are you enjoying that? And is that something you want to continue with once you finish your sort of playing career?
Absolutely. I don't think I'll ever walk away from rugby now, no matter what happens. Whether it's coaching or just involved somehow, I don't think I can walk away from it now. Is that much ingrained in my life? Newport is great. There's a great bunch of boys. It's a great club. And it does remind you of that family orientated club in which they are. And we've got a setup now with, I think, like under 8s all the way up to seniors now we have. And I'm talking to the committee, looking to do a mixability rugby side. And we're also looking to include, women's side as well, women's rugby side, so I'm looking to hopefully reintroduce a youth side as well. Because I've got my plans as a head coach, and Panteg are on the same page as me, which is really good. And when I coach the boys, their work ethic is unreal, and there's some talented boys in there, in this team that I've got. And I know we've had some bad results in the past in our league, but, we're all itching to get back now, come May, fingers crossed, and, start putting foundations in for us to start competing in that league, because it's a tough league.
Yeah, and to finish, we've got a teammates quiz for you. So, firstly, who is the worst dressed teammate you've played with?
Well, I can't say myself. I know a lot of boys will say myself because, like I said, I'm a bit different. I like going to JDs, So they say I'm the worst dressed, but I would have to say I love him, but I'd have to say. Matt O'Brien, when I was at Newport, he dressed a bit quirky. That's what I'm going to say.
He loves the sandals, no socks, doesn't he?
Yeah, I don't get it, me. I'm more about my Nike socks and my Hirachis, but, each their own,
And who is the best drinker?
I'm sure you've heard this of everybody you've spoken to so far. I can name you loads, but for me, that'd be David Jones, the scrum half out of Ebbw Vale. I'm not going to say too much, but fair play for someone of his stature. Fantastic person, fantastic player. I know his family, lovely family as well, But yeah, the man can lie on his back and put the whole pint around his all this year. Not a drop spilled, and I was in awe about it. I remember speaking to my granddad about it about 2 days. I couldn't believe it. Absolutely phenomenal effort from him. I got to give him that.
And who's your favourite changing room DJ?
Oh, I'd have to say Cameron Regan when I was at Ebbw Vale. I wouldn't say so much a change room DJ, but he hasn't got a bad voice on him. I'll give him that. In the change room, he's always singing something, or he's always trying to get a track on or a tune on to have a party after a game. And also the bus as well, on the way back home, he's either singing Walking in Memphis or something like that, So he's always somebody that you want on your team, trust me.
Yeah, and without telling us too much, who's the biggest liability on a night out?
Without saying too much, yet again, I love him. He's a lovely lad. He's a great player, but I'd have to say David Jones as well. In a good way, though. In a good way, he's not loose like what some people would think. But when he's had a few drinks, he's very hyper. And he comes out with some jokes. And I think he had one of the boys once. He had a few drinks on the train home going on the Cardiff, and one of the boys was getting him some jip, and there's one of the boys had like some yellow shirt on or something, and he piped up and he went, "My shirt matches your teeth," and he's an absolute class lad, and we was out in Cardiff, and yeah, he's just very hyper. He's trying to break dance on the floor. He's a barrel of laughs, but a very nice lad.
Yeah, and if you're stuck on a desert island, who's the teammate you most want to be with and the one you least want to be stuck with?
Oh, I want to be stuck with, I'd have to say Johnny Morris at Newport. I'm not sure if you watched him. He's on that Ninja Warrior UK, and he's very fit. So I'm a bit lazy in that sense. I just chuck him into the sea to go and catch everything. He's fit enough to do it. So I just go, Johnny, you do it. The person I wouldn't like to be on there with, I'd have to say Brendan Lampitt. He's a very nice lad as well. And me, despite saying that, in all fairness to him, when I did lose my grandp, he's one of the first people to message me, and speak to me. So I got to give him credit. But in terms of being stuck on, I couldn't be stuck on it with him. You just give me chip about something, or you'll moan about something. There's. He'd argue if the sky's red, he'll argue it's black. Do you know what I mean? One of those. Brendan couldn't do it.
All right, that's a wrap for this episode then. Cheers for coming on, Wes.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Big fan. Thank you.
Cheers, mate. And thank you for everyone for watching. And to see the rest of our videos, catch up with our socials at Welsh Prem Pod. Thank you and goodbye.